Today we're here with Ty Moss, who is a content and creative developer for Mass Inbound. He handles all of the creative elements for businesses all around the country, whether that be image-based, video-based, or anything in between. Ty has his hands on it, whether we use it for content-related reasons or paid advertising, and that's featured on social platforms or now streaming in TV or anything else that may be a way for people or audiences to view creative assets for businesses. Ty is dealing with. So welcome, Ty. We appreciate you being here, and we're excited to dive in.
Thanks. Happy to be on the wrong side of the camera.
Yeah, usually Ty is on the other side of things and doing the editing and flipping the...
By design, I might say.
Yeah.
I did that on purpose, but here we are.
Yeah, it's good to have you on this side. I'm really excited to have you on this side because I think that it's important for a lot of businesses to really understand how important creative is. And I think every single year we continue to dive deeper into the space of paid advertising. Creative becomes more important. And you can see that with YouTube and some of the massive players out there, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of these platforms really rely heavily on creative ability. Mm-hmm. And it's not getting any easier to be creative as more competition gets in the space, as more people get in the space. The creative ability is really an important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like every platform now weights so heavily the content that you're posting. Everything is trying to turn into like a video or everything is wanting to be a video app now.
Yeah, it's a constant battle between who's got more viewership, and how you get more viewership is either get more creative by design or stay on trend or create trend. And it's becoming more difficult. And then it becomes more difficult with brands too, because a lot of the things that create massive viewership, they have to try to align with brand. And aligning with brand is really difficult when it's something that's completely out there.
Yeah.
Where a lot of viewers or a lot of the trendy things are playing.
You almost have to get lucky, go the other way, and find a trend that does align with your brand rather than try and apply a trend to your brand and then everybody makes fun of it on Twitter. Yeah,
it's difficult because you want to make sure you're placing your business in a position that aligns with brand, but you also want to I would say lean into culture and trend and make sure that you're going in the right direction with brand development. So it's a tricky thing. But before we get rolling too deep into that, I would love for you to exemplify some examples of what you do in the space and also talk more about your background.
I've been doing some form of video production for as long as I can remember. I've started filming football games in high school and now I started doing live production in college and then went on to more live production in a studio setting. So always been doing some form of creative. Awesome. Yeah.
And what got you into the creative side of things? Was it a change or just something that you really liked?
No, I always liked, I think just the tech, the cameras, everything like that. Yeah, like the stabilizers, everything in that realm is what got me into it.
Okay, cool. And then after college, you went and spent some time in kind of a real life setting, working with a company that did production and stuff like that too.
Yeah, we had a pretty big size studio. We had a whole video wall and everything, and then we did like on-site live productions for live streams and events and stuff like that. So that was very good experience, but it kind of scarred me with live production. I don't know how people do that on the daily. I couldn't. I had a buddy who works in NFL and doing the streams and stuff, and I think that would kill me.
Yeah, it's tough when the margin of error is excessively minimal. You can't mess up. I mean, everything's live, so it's if you mess up, it's bad. Yeah, to say the least. So it's definitely stressful. Live production is awesome, and it's a very awesome skill to have, but it's difficult.
Yeah, there's nothing that I mean. A video will reach your audience, but being able to interact with them live, it really does have its own sort of flavor that I think it stands out to people.
Definitely, and we're seeing that more.
Yeah,
more and more. I mean, I think COVID kind of took a lot of those events and put them into live virtual spaces, which just put more emphasis on the live production aspect of things.
And then people just get used to it. People are like, oh, I can just stay in my home and attend this event. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll do that.
Yeah, so I know. And it's becoming more of a culturally driven thing now where people are just doing live at-home events virtual. Even we don't need to anymore. It's still even a big thing and growing.
Cheaper, yeah. I mean, less, no overhead.
Yeah, I mean, the cost of flights and hotels and getting there and tickets and all these extra things that go into attending a live event is expensive, one. Two, it's a lot of hustle and bustle. It's a lot easier just to flip a switch, turn it on, and you're right there. So the live production side of things is something that's really fascinating. And then now at Mass Inbound, you concentrate on the creative element for image-based things and creatives for paid advertising. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, now it's been a bit of a switch more into like graphics. I always enjoyed that, and the school I went to, it wasn't like a exclusive film school or anything, so I had to sort of design my own major, and in that got to do a lot of like graphic design and stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do at like a traditional film school. So that, I think that helped, that led into this sort of this field more, because I feel like when I started, I didn't make that great creatives. I wasn't as good at it as I am now. At least I feel like I can do it faster now, and just absorbing just what other people are doing, just looking at the marketplace and what other sorts of ads are running. And even there's trends within like Facebook ads, like the same way that there's trends on like TikToks. So it's just sort of learning what that is and how to apply that, like you said, to different brands.
Yeah, and you're making hundreds of creatives a month now at this point. And then on top of that, doing video production for us and for our clients and really for massive amounts of different industries. I mean, from one space that is medical based to a completely different side of like home and lifestyle and outdoor living. And so there's really just a wide variety of verticals that you can create creatives for. Now, what is the process? So if a company is looking to implement more creative ability into their structure and to explore how they could leverage creatives to help enhance their marketing, where's a good place to start?
What I do, if say we get a new client, I will look at what they've ran before, see like what's worked. If something works, then I make a variation and keep doing that. But if nothing's working, I first look at like your biggest competitors and see what they're doing and see if there's anything consistent with that. Because I mean, you'll usually see like their like top 3 competitors of someone all have pretty similar looking ads, but with their brand colors. So there's trends to identify within that. I think that's a good first place to look, is see what people look at someone who isn't in position that you want to be in with your business and see what they're doing.
Yeah, that's definitely a great place to start. So building the foundation around what is working. And then once they implement what is working, then I guess the best thing to do is to start to test, right?
Yeah, split tests are great. We do that a lot. But I think finding something to get you off the ground a little bit that you can always go back to if a split test doesn't work out, and then just start trying to find as many different things that can work, because you'll find one thing, but there's inevitably more than one.
Yeah, of course.
That's gonna work.
And then now, I guess the biggest question is images or videos. What's more important?
I don't know. I think it's so different what each one needs. I think a good image creative for me is just eye-catching. I don't love when there's just like a paragraph of information on the image.
Yeah.
I think that's more served for video, because then you can show, not tell in a video, and you don't need everything. And if it's just a person talking, is way more easier to ingest than to read a paragraph on a creative. I think you just want to like catch people's attention with an image creative, and then do the hard footwork in the copy. Yeah,
I agree. And I think people miss that, because I think when the person is creating the creative, they're usually doing it on a big screen. So you see this big block of a creative, but you don't realize that when people are seeing that creative, it's literally like maybe an inch big in their news feed in their Facebook feed, but they don't really realize that because it's so large when they're creating. So when you write these paragraphs or these bullet pointed lists, depending on how in depth and the color orientation and all that, it may be difficult to read. And it's more than likely that it is too much information on a piece of creative, and it needs to be relevant in the copy. And we try to do that too, right? So how do you get them to stop? And I think the creative is what gets them to stop. And then how do you get them to keep reading, which kind of putting synergy in between your creative and your copy and parlaying that together is really important. So we try to do that a lot. Now, one thing that we do too is different style videos. So there's shorts these days, there's brand videos, there's product style videos. What type of videos are, I guess, what's your favorite video to do, to ask first?
I think that's hard because each video, I mean, it depends on what the idea is. If it's like we did that ad campaign, that like any boring ad campaign might not be so fun, but that was a fun little shoot. We had a good idea and I liked that. But I think it just depends on the idea. Any sort of a reel, a brand video can just adding a fun twist into it to differentiate it from the category that it's in.
Do you ever feel when you're creating like a creative, you're like, this one's going to work?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm sometimes I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot of the time, but I guess it's more when I think that something isn't going to work and then it does versus I can kind of pick when things are going to work, but it's the things that I don't expect that surprise me more.
That happens a lot. It happens so much. There's a lot of times where I look at a creative, I'm like, this one's really good. And then it's just like, okay, performance wise. And then there's one where it's basic and I'm like, this took 5 minutes and it just blew up. I don't understand it. And I think that's a really good point to make. If you're a business, you have to test more and you have to, even if you don't necessarily love it and you don't want to run that because it's not your best work. If it's something that you could split test and you can say, if this works, then wonderful, then do it because you have no idea what's going to perform and what's not. And most of the time, the ones that we spend all of our time with and we do a lot of in-depth work on, it can be both ways. It can perform really well or it could just be So you have to test those things.
Yeah. And at some point it just becomes, I feel like I'm wasting my time when one of the 3-minute ones blows up and I've spent like 20 minutes trying to mask something or get something just right and it goes kaput.
Yeah. And it's tough to say. There's no parameter around what that is. So, and that's with every type of business. Every single business has that. There's not one where it's like, okay, this is exactly what you should do. Every single one kind of, I would say, industry has their standards, but outside of that, you need to go create and test. And I wouldn't let analysis by paralysis hold you back from just issuing more creatives into the marketplace to test things, because I think that happens a real lot.
Yeah.
People don't put too much out there because it's not their best perfect piece of work.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't let that hold you back because you have no idea what's going to work.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're not like applying for a graphic design. You're just trying to catch people's attention. It doesn't have to be your best work all the time. It's not what catches people's attention.
Exactly. So if we wanted to create like a 5-step process on how to create creatives and put it into the marketplace to test, what's number one? Where would we start?
Step one. I think you figure out what your offer is, like what your offer is that's different from your competitors. Because if you have the exact same offer as your competitors, then it's going to be hard to make an ad that stands out because people are going to be used to it, or if people are already in the marketplace looking for whatever you're selling, then you need to do something to stand out. So I think step one would be nail down your offer.
Okay. Step two?
Step two, I think you could do your creative research after that and see what other people are doing.
Okay.
And then just to get some ideas, put together like a mood board or things that you like that other people are doing.
Okay.
And then step three, I think, would be start with 3 versions. I think just don't do too many, because if you do too many, you're not going to figure out what about each one did well. So start with like 2 or 3 versions of something.
I like that.
And then slowly eliminate.
Yeah, don't lean into just one, but then don't go crazy and do 10. Yeah. So yeah, I think I like, I don't know why, but I like the number 3. The reason why is that I chose that is because if I do 2, I'm like, well, there's not enough to decipher from one or the other. And then if I do 3, I feel like I can kind of split some little, like I just change the text in one. In another, I just change the color. And then I know, okay, it's definitely the color.
Yeah.
But if I change the text and color in the image, is it the text or is it the color? So I try to break that down a little bit more. And that's why when we do things, I usually say like 3 variations is good and then slightly modify. Because then I can really say, or at least a little bit more identify what is working and why that one is doing better. Okay, so first, find your offer, identify that. Second, do your research. Third, create multiple variations, typically 3 variations of that. Step 4?
Step 4, I think, is to whittle down. Yeah, find what works. And I think use that, keep iterating on that process of like maybe go through 3 and add, and okay, not this one, let's take that out, let's add another one in, and do that until you have a nice bank of stuff that works.
Okay.
And with that, I think that sort of leads into step 5. Try and have, we call them personas sometimes, or just like categories of ads. Like, so we can do like, we know this works with this offer, so we can do like 4 of these ads now because we know that this all works. So it's not really testing anymore. It's just variations on stuff that we know that works.
Yeah.
So that's when you can like put numbers into the ads. So you can have a bunch because you know you've done all the testing and you know what works now.
Yeah, I like that. So to reiterate, step 1, find the offer. Step 2, do your research on competitors or others doing the same or similar types of things in the marketplace. Step 3, create 3 variations. Step 4, implement it into the marketplace to identify the performance. Step 5, refine that based off of the analytics, create new variations, get rid of the bad ones, dive deeper into the new ones, and continue to just rinse and repeat.
Might take a couple months, but that's a pretty hard to go wrong with those 5 steps.
That's a good point. How do you know, or how long does it take for that? I think that the answer is just depends on budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have a decent sized budget, you can buy time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically pushing more analytics to that faster. If you don't have the biggest budget, it'll take time for that. So it's either budget or time.
Yep.
That's really it. And you just kind of have to let the analytics talk about what that's going to portray or what the market likes. Now, how do you know if an audience resonates with one piece of creative more than another?
I think that depends on engagement.
Yeah.
With I think they'll tell you if they like something, or they'll tell you if they don't like something too.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely.
we know that.
And I think that's the beauty of social today is like you don't need to hang this thing on a billboard on I-95 in order to see if this thing's going to work. You can literally put it into Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, anything like that, and just YouTube, right? And just let it roll. If you want to push a little bit of a budget behind it, push a little bit of a budget behind it, and then analyze the performance. So it's not as extravagant of an effort as it was 25, 35 years ago, which is awesome. Are there platforms that you think are better for testing creatives?
I guess it depends on where you have your most following, probably.
Okay.
I think different industries are going to do better in different things. I feel like
definitely
like marketing stuff is probably going to do better on LinkedIn in general. More like fun, like creative things will probably do better on TikTok. More, I don't know. I think like maybe older generation stuff will lean towards Facebook. So it's like you have to keep in mind like what general type of audience is going to be on each sort of social page and try and tailor whatever you're making for that.
I agree. And then just something you made me think about when you were talking about that was the platforms have different type of audiences and different type of needs and desires by the people that are using those platforms at that point in time. Are the creatives different for each platform, or is the creative style different for each platform?
I think definitely when it comes to like, you can probably like double dip with like Facebook and Instagram. There's like enough overlap and it's all meta now. So it's like literally, but I think when you get to something like different types of media, like a video versus image, like you don't want to just like post a still image on TikTok with some music behind it. That's probably not a great look. I see that brands trying to do that just they hear about TikTok and like, oh, let's get on TikTok. Let's make a TikTok. It's a totally different content style if you want to like post on TikTok, and you just really have to be cognizant of that.
I agree completely. Yeah, that's something that's you're doing it, but it's not definitely on trend with the platform itself.
Mm-hmm. It's not like you can't just think like, oh, it's a video app. I'll make a video. It has to be a TikTok. It can't be just a video.
I agree completely. Mm-hmm. So there definitely is formats of the content and creative that you are creating that match platforms independently. So a TikTok style video is definitely going to perform better on TikTok than it does on, let's say, YouTube or Facebook or Reels anywhere else. Or LinkedIn, right? Like if you take a TikTok video and drop it on LinkedIn, like it's just
not the audience.
No, it's not. It's not going to resonate the same. So you have to think about those things and trying to figure out how to create the piece of content that's going to be best for that platform and that audience and their reason and use case for being on that platform at that point in time. See, even with your time here at Mass Inbound, I think that creatives are ever changing. I think platforms make shifts, trends alter, but our production style has changed dramatically. I mean, now we're in a studio compared to where we were before. So our production style is dramatically different with the equipment and just the way we do things. So I can see differences in the way that we've established creatives. So I can't imagine over the last 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. All right, so we talked about how I guess would be your structure in figuring out what to create creatively for platforms. Talked about the platforms themselves. The other piece of it is how frequently do you post, or how do you know that? Mm-hmm. What's your insight on that?
Well, that's something we're, I think, still sort of learning. I've started doing our social media stuff recently, and I feel like, I don't know, it's hard to say what does work and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Exactly, because you can go to your exact parameters that you've had something work and get a bunch of views, and it just gets nothing. But I think generally trying to post at like the times where people are getting home from work, or when people, like, think about when you get done with work and when do you sit down on your couch and scroll through Instagram.
Yeah,
that's probably when you should be posting on Instagram then.
Agreed. Yeah, that's good insight. And then do you post once a week, or
at least? We've started posting something every day. Just try to get as much content out of there as we can, whether it's a video or just like a post, something informational content on Instagram. Just get something out there, if for any reason, but to just fill up your socials. So like when people go to your stuff, they see that it's like an active page. Oh, they're posting every day. Even if like you don't get, I mean, it's not, I don't think it's that weird to like see like a business page not have like 100,000 followers. That's
agreed.
I feel like an anomaly when that happens, that business pages get like super big.
Agreed. You have to be like those massive brands.
Yeah, exactly.
Those massive brands that everyone knows that's been around forever. Those are the brands that are definitely getting.
I think you just need to be looking for consistent engagement and growing your follower base. Don't like beat yourself up if you're not at 100,000 followers. And
I would say content creation is a delayed gratification for sure, right? You don't know when something's going to perform really well. You don't know if you're going to post a video and you're going to get 10 views, you're going to get 10,000 views. You literally have no idea. And at first, it's just about being consistent. Like that's the most important thing. And then having fun with it. I think we have some decent fun with what we created.
Yeah, I think we're getting better at. When we first started, I feel like I was just like doing podcast clips, and then we transitioned to like more direct to camera, like in-depth tips and stuff. And that's just like a more like fun content style to do. I think that just resonates with people more.
Yeah. And most stuff isn't scripted. I would say there are some things that can be scripted. It depends what the use case is for. Mm-hmm. There's definitely some times where there's certain points you need to get across and you can write a script for that. And I would say most of what we do is not, though.
Yeah. I feel like people can tell when it's like when something is too scripted and they don't, and Definitely. They stray away from that. Yeah, I mean, personally, I've probably been fooled for sure, but when more or less when it's like off the cuff and it feels natural to me, and it just feels like somebody's just talking to you directly and not like you forget that it's a video.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you can get lost in a script is what you're trying to say. I think that when something is too scripted, I mean, and I think where people go wrong with this is like when you see someone like Matthew McConaughey or like, Jennifer Aniston or, any of these celebrities, of course, they're reading a script, but they are literally like self-developed to the point where it doesn't matter what script you give them, it's never going to look like they're reading a script. It's just who they are. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a very, very small group of people in the world today that have the ability to do that. And that's why they're a celebrity, right? But for the most part, when you read a script, you get lost in the tonality, you get lost in the creative development around it, and you just lose emotion through the whole thing throughout the most of it. And I think when you go off the cuff, in a lot of cases, the emotion and the thought is there. And that's why you can tell because people are just very bland when they read the scripted stuff. So if you have the ability to maintain emotion, tonality, and character while also reading a script, you're unique.
You should get into Hollywood. You should just be an actor.
You may be an actor, yeah, or actress, yeah. So, but I see what you're saying there. People can get lost in that. And that's why I think the off-the-cuff stuff does really well.
Yeah, I would rather do like 2 or 3 takes of something and of somebody like getting into flow state rather than like script it out and do a piece of content like that.
It's hard, and it takes practice. I think that's another thing, too, to point out is your first time is definitely going to be weird and difficult, and it's not going to be like perfectly crisp. But as you continue to do it, it's like, you're building a muscle, your creative muscle, your on-camera muscle. I think that you do definitely build that as time goes on. And it takes time and just keep doing it, and you'll get better.
Yeah.
Awesome. So is there any last minute piece of advice that you would give a business that is thinking about doing more copy, creative, implementation of content in their business for the growth and development of their business? What's the last piece of advice you would give?
I think whatever sort of scale of businesses is, try at your hardest to make that like one person's like only job. Like if you're trying to run work with all these clients, and then also like at the end of the day focusing like 2 hours into like your creative stuff, I feel like it needs more time, more TLC than that. I feel like if one person can just be thinking about that the whole time, that's sort of what it needs pretty much.
Good insight. Yeah, I agree.
And then further, as bigger as you can get, just split that up, and then if you could have more people like focusing on that, the better. But at least one person who just focuses on that.
Agreed. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate having you on, and hopefully we added some insight to how we do creative development and how businesses could use that to grow their business as well.
Happy to be here. I'll get back behind the camera.
See you next time.